What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Contesting the Point. I'm your host, Malik Forté, and joining me this week, we've got Nameless and Momo. Nameless, back for the first time since the beginning of the season. How's it going, man?
It's going fantastic. That first episode was a bit crazy, the reaction, and I'm back here again, currently 2-0, so looking to extend my win streak.
I feel you. And Momo, you've made bold predictions and have been on the money the last two times you were here, man. How are you, and how do you do it?
Honestly, I give up with this show. Nameless said he's 2, and I'm 0-2. I've made predictions which came right. I look back at them, I'm thinking, how did I lose that? But then again, Malik, there's only one way, we win, and that's by you giving points out. So we'll see. I'm glad to be here. I'm looking for redemption. 0-3 is not what I want on my scorecard.
Well, you know what they always say, man. The third time is a charm. So best of luck to you. But for everybody out there who does not know the rules, let me recap for you real quick. I'm going to present a headline from the CDL. Then I'm going to give a hot take on the story. One of the guests will defend the hot take while the other one attacks it. I'll award points for convincing arguments, and after 3 stories, whoever has the most points wins 60 seconds to pop off in the Astro Listen Up moment. Guys, how's that sounding? You cool with that?
I'm cool with it, man. I'm ready to go.
Sounds good to me. I'm going up against one of the best. He's 2-0. My records, my numbers don't stack up against him.
You're great too, Phil. Come on now.
But I'm feeling myself. I'm feeling good this morning.
All right, man. All right. Well, let's go ahead and kick things off with our first story. We've got the Florida Home Series coming up this weekend. Big names like Chicago and Dallas, they won't be at the event, but I think things are still going to be quite interesting. Let's take a look at the groups real quick. In Group A, you have Toronto and New York. Both of these teams are currently sitting at the bottom of the standings, but New York shows some signs of life at the Chicago Home Series with their new player, Mac Meltz. Then you have Florida and Minnesota rounding out the group, both of which are currently sitting in 4th place at 100 CDL points and could win it all. In Group B, you have Paris and London. Both of these teams, they started out pretty strong, but they're struggling now, failing to make it out of groups in their last 2 events. And joining them is Atlanta, who are currently in 3rd place in the standings, but almost everyone considers them the best team in the league. And rounding out that group, you have OpTic Gaming, LA, who have been a hot mess all season long and are sitting at the bottom of the standings with Toronto and New York. So, with the groups all laid out, my hot take is that Florida's honeymoon period is over with Pharaoh, and they're not going to make it out of groups. Momo, you sided with Florida in the past, so Nameless, please tell me why they're going to choke at their own home series.
Okay, so I think Florida's going to choke, and here is why. They're going up against Minnesota round 1. Now, we know that they beat them last time that they played. However, Minnesota learns from their mistakes. If there's anything that we've learned throughout the season about this squad is that when they played FaZe, they lost 2-3 the first time. The second time they played them, they beat them 3-2. They shocked the world by beating them. We all praise the Minnesota organization for how well that they practice, how professional they are, and how prepared these players are when they get to these games. I think that they will lose to Minnesota round 1, and then when they go down to play either Toronto or New York, they will lose that match as well. The last time that Florida played Toronto, they lost 2-3. New York looked fantastic at the last tournament, testing every single team in the respawns. They tested FaZe, they 100-point clubbed them in hardpoint. So if they play New York, I think that they fall with the addition of Mac Meltz. And if they play Toronto, I think it's a repeat performance. The last time they played Toronto, they lost to Toronto, and that was a weaker version of this team. Toronto has gotten better. I think Florida, the honeymoon period is over, and they will not make it out of Group A.
That's a good point, and I like that you threw in there the New York Subliners, who are looking much better, being a potential team that could take them out. But Phil, what do you have to say about that, man? Defend your boys, the Florida Mutineers.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point, or some of the points that Nameless makes. I think for me, it's the matchup for sure, Florida versus Minnesota. I think that's going to be an incredible game. I think both of these teams come out. When I looked at this group, I thought this was almost quite an easy pick. I thought straight away, Florida, they've just come off the back of a win. That win in Dallas, obviously, they beat Chicago, they beat Minnesota, they beat Gorillas in Toronto as well. Like, these are teams that are in their groups, and they were beating them in 4 maps. They were all 3-1 victories there. Florida, I don't think are over their honeymoon period. I think, if anything, they came in strong. Yes, they surprised everyone. Did we expect them to win? Absolutely not. But they've also had time off. This was a newly formed roster which has had time off now to not only have footage on the likes of New York in tournament mode, which they can watch back and learn from, and, if they do go up against them, use to their advantage. But these guys have had 2 weeks, again, to get better. You know, these will have been practicing, will have been scrimming, much like every other team. But as a newly formed roster, I think they will have capitalized on this a little bit better. So when I was looking at this hot take, I looked at it and thought, for me, it's an easy 2 coming out of this. It's Minnesota and Florida. It's unfortunate they play each other straight away in round 1. But again, I think having the fact that New York, this New York roster have already played, they kind of know what to expect. I think they've got footage already on this, and they'll be able to adapt well. And I think these 2 teams are a little bit ahead of New York and Toronto right now.
You know what's tough about that point, Phil, is that here's the thing. All the pro players right now are saying that New York is astonishing teams in scrim. Like they're just amazing. They're dominating their scrims, and New York is this super improved roster. So if they are, and whatever team between Florida and Minnesota wins round 1, loses to New York, then they'll have to face off again in the losers bracket. So both of them probably won't make it through if that's the route that, you know, this group goes, which is possible, man. New York did look a lot better at the last tournament, and apparently the way they play just flusters a ton of teams. So I could definitely see New York coming out alongside either Florida or Minnesota, but in this one, I think Florida is the one that falls.
Minnesota and Florida, those 2 teams, when they face off, I can't really point in any direction that the match is going to go, just simply based off the fact that it just kind of goes off the momentum that they're experiencing during the tournament.
I think actually, I think you're right. I think that matchup is going to be a tough one. It's quite unfortunate, I guess, for some of the fans to see it again. But let's not forget, these guys played against each other. Florida beat Minnesota last time 3-1 again in a game 4. This wasn't being pushed to game 5. This wasn't being kind of going down to nail-biting situations. Florida came out, won it, and won that tournament. I think they do the same again here. I think Florida get through to round 2. Minnesota drop down to the losers bracket, but then that's where I think Minnesota will bounce back and beat whoever it will be down there and kind of find their way out. But I think Florida, beat Minnesota and then beat New York in round 2.
But just think about it, though, for Minnesota, right? Like, so you're saying that Florida's going to they beat them last time, and they're going to beat them again. When does that happen to Minnesota? They lost to FaZe, and they beat them. They lost to Empire, then they beat them. They learned from their mistakes. That's 2 of the top dogs. And whenever they lost their first series, they came back and beat them in the second one. So I don't think that Florida's going to be the team to break that chain for Minnesota. I think that they'll take them out this time, but if we're going off, recency, what happened, Florida could win, but I can't be on that side.
It's a game I'm excited to watch for sure, but I'm leaning with Florida. I do see the points of New York. I don't see Toronto making it out. Again, what New York will we see? Yes, we've seen them in one amazing tournament, and I know all the pros, the coaches, everything are hyping them up, but I want to see some consistency. If we see the same New York again, then again I'm gonna be a little bit more kind of focused in on them. But I need to see some more consistency from New York and see that in this tournament, which I actually think we will, but It's gonna be tough.
Yeah. I think I agree with both of you guys, or at least I agree with you, Phil. I don't think Toronto really has a shot against the Florida Mutineers. But I am really worried about that New York matchup, and I do think that in a rematch against the Minnesota Rocker, Nameless kind of hit it on the money. Every time Minnesota faces a team for the second time, they adapt, and they play them a lot harder that second time. And we all know it's really hard to beat teams 2 times in a row, especially in Call of Duty. With that being said, I'm going to give this first round to Nameless 5-4. I just cannot see any scenario where Florida is getting out of their group with all the heavy hitters and all the teams that are playing a little bit better than they are in their group right now. All right, so since we took a look at the groups, the next question is, who's going to win this whole thing? The obvious answer would be the Atlanta FaZe. I mean, they're the clear-cut favorites to win it all. However, their kryptonite is also at the event too, that being the Minnesota Rocker. But even with that all being said, I'm calling it here. The Minnesota Rocker are going to win the Florida Home Series. Now, Momo, you were on the Florida Mutineers team for that last point. So tell me, why will the Minnesota Rocker choke here this weekend?
I don't necessarily think it's going to be a choke of Minnesota. I just know that Atlanta is in this tournament. I looked at this tournament and my instinct was like, all right, I'm excited for Mutineers, the Florida Home Series. Who's going to take it all? And looking at the rosters, I'm like, no Dallas, no Chicago. So again, straight away, I'm very interested in this. FaZe are going to be in the final. Who's going to be joining them? Is it going to be Minnesota? Could it be Florida? Maybe a crazy run from this New York roster. Again, we've not really seen much of Paris recently, but the easy answer was FaZe. FaZe have been clear-cut, except for right this moment, the best team this whole year. Right now, you've got to give it to Dallas Empire. They've won 2. and they took down Atlanta FaZe in the last one. But they're not here. So instantly I go straight back to Atlanta FaZe. We've seen, of course, what they've done previously. They've made the finals of tournaments twice. They've won it once. They did, of course, unfortunately, I think, place top 4, and that was when they lost to Minnesota, which was the previous point at the LA Home Series. But Atlanta will be gunning for that number 1 spot again. I think Minnesota, Florida will get out the groups. You know, that was my prediction kind of in topic number 1. But I think they're going to be tested by teams like Paris or London or whoever they come up against. And I don't see FaZe being tested to that extent. I think FaZe make it to the final, and we see potentially a close final. But I don't know. Again, I kind of edge towards Florida. I'm doubling down on Florida. I'm going all in. I'm putting all my chips on the table. I think Florida make it to the final. I think Minnesota maybe fall short in some way. So not only am I saying Minnesota don't win the tournament, Malik, I'm saying they don't make the final. I'm saying it's going to be FaZe versus Florida. We're going to get 2 champions. Minnesota, they're not a champion. They're not won anything. I don't think this is their time.
Okay, all right. I feel you, man, and I do think it's funny that you say you don't necessarily think they're going to choke the Minnesota Rocker being. I don't know, man. I feel like every time the Minnesota Rocker have made it to the finals, they just can't make it to that next level of winning the whole series.
I see these as a top 4, top 5 team, and I see them finishing maybe top 4. I don't think it's a choke. I think that's just kind of where they fit in here. But Dallas, Chicago not being here, this is going to be an interesting tournament.
Okay, well, Nameless, how are they going to pull this off, man? How is Minnesota going to change my mind and make me think that they're actually a clutch team that can make it happen when it counts?
Well, it's Minnesota's time. They're going to win this tournament like we just talked about. When they play a team for the second time, they beat them. So they're going to make quick work of Florida, right? Done. Florida's off their radar. They get over that hump. And then when they get into the bracket, their biggest competition is FaZe. Well, guess what? FaZe is 12-10 map record since the last time that they played Minnesota. And guess what happened? Minnesota beat them 3-2. Who's gotten better? Minnesota. Who has gotten worse? It has been FaZe. FaZe is a weaker version of the team that Minnesota most recently beat on March 8th. They dominated them 3-2. And going into this tournament, I think they know that it's their time. It's their time to win one. GodRx has been playing at, an extremely high level. The rest of these guys are starting to contribute. There's not other heavy hitters in this tournament. Empire's not here. Huntsman's not here. This is their time to win. Out of Empire's last 10 matches, they've lost 1 time. It's been to the Rocker, right? So Rocker are the only team, it seems, that can beat the top dogs in the game, or the top dog. And I think it's their time to get this championship. I think that they take it.
Is there anything to be said about the fact that the Atlanta FaZe, now have kind of the edge in being able to adjust to the mistakes that they made last time against Minnesota since they lost the last game? With us, in that first topic, basically saying that it's really difficult to beat teams twice in Call of Duty. Shouldn't, Atlanta FaZe kind of have a little bit, or hang their hands.
A little bit of leeway.
Yeah, a little bit of leeway, just for the simple fact that.
Yeah, maybe. However, I was just talking strictly on the side of Minnesota, that they have shown that they've learned from their mistakes and can beat the next team. I think on the side of FaZe, it's just that they don't look as good as they did in the beginning of the season. They still look absolutely fantastic. There's a huge argument for them to be the best team in the game. It's just that Minnesota have that fire for the win. They're like one of the only teams that are in that top 4 discussion that don't have that W yet. And if there's a time to do it, it's this tournament. They're going against a bunch of teams that, they have a ton of experience against, a bunch of teams that look like they're getting worse, outside of Florida. And I think that Minnesota, if they're going to take one, it's going to be this one. And I think they have what it takes. So I believe in that squad.
Well, Momo, do you have anything? Is there any other potential way that you can see Minnesota not getting out of the home series? Is Atlanta FaZe their only roadblock?
I think Atlanta FaZe are the biggest roadblock for absolutely every other team here. I think every other team's going into this knowing that FaZe are the number 1, if you like, or the favorite. Are Minnesota fantastic? Yes. Are they great to watch? Yeah. Do they improve? Yeah. But again, yes, they beat Atlanta last time, but again, the time before that, it was another Game 5. These are going to the edge. Minnesota and Atlanta, they push these Game 5s out. And I think that, again, FaZe are a team which I don't necessarily think they've gotten worse. I think other teams, yes, have started to catch up, and I think they're being pushed and pressured more But I think them being taken off that #1 spot and everyone almost dethroning them and giving that to Dallas, this is a chance, again, albeit Dallas not being here, for them to go back on top. And I don't think FaZe let that slip. I think FaZe come back again for round 3, if you like, the trilogy of versus Minnesota. Will it go game 5 again? Potentially. But I edge to Atlanta every single time. And again, whether that's because I don't see that victory or that championship for Minnesota. But I think Atlanta, doubling down on my points before, they make it to the final. I think Florida are the ones to join them. We get a rematch of the Atlanta Home Series final, which of course was Atlanta versus Florida. And I think Atlanta get their second championship, much like Dallas have done. And at that point, again, Atlanta will have 2. Minnesota, again, I will feel will have 0. But they're a top 4 team for me right now. I can't see them winning it.
All right. Well, I don't know, man. I feel like the Minnesota Rockers should be the favorites here, given their performance, being that they've beat Atlanta FaZe before, and being that they, like Nameless said, have gotten better throughout the weeks with us being online. But I don't know, man. There's something in my heart that makes it hard, and I feel like you guys both make convincing arguments, so it's hard for me to call this either way. We're going to call this right down the middle. This is going to be a draw round. I'm giving you guys both 6 points. That brings our total score 11 Nameless, 10 Momo. For our last story, we're talking OpTic Gaming LA. It seems we're always trashing OG LA on this show, and rightfully so. They have a roster on paper that seems like it should be dominating the competition, but in reality, they've been struggling from day one, and it looks like they started to listen to us on Contesting the Point and switch things up. Rumor has it that they've been practicing with Chino in place of JCap. But even with all that, if these rumors turn out to be true, my hot take is that Chino will not be enough to turn OGLA around. So I don't know, man. Nameless, can you convince me that Chino is going to actually come in here and start killing things?
All right, listen, first things first, everybody in the community, there will be no bad-mouthing of Martin Chino. This guy is a legend in the COD community, the ultimate positive vibes, and he's coming in as a superhero to take over OpTic Gaming and help them out. Now, hear me out. The last time Chino and Kenny teamed together, what did they do? They won back-to-back championships against all odds. Everybody counted out that roster in TK, and they won back-to-back, and that was largely in part of the MVP Chino and the other MVP Kenny. I think that they bring that dynamic back to this team. It helps them out a lot. You're getting rid of your dead weight. If he comes in for JCap has a 0.81 throughout the season. That's horrible. If you bring a Chino and he comes in with even a 1.0, he helps this team so much. They can get over that hump and get some confidence. Him and Slasher started off playing Call of Duty together. They've been best friends for years, so the chemistry is going to be there. He could be the dynamic that brings Dashy back into the friendship circle of this team. There's just a lot of added benefit to having Chino on your team, and I think he will turn them around. I think they will enter a honeymoon period, gain that confidence, and what Slasher, TJ, Dashy, and Kenny can do with confidence if they start out strong, they can win championships.
Okay, well, it sounds like for you, Nameless, is basically contingent upon the other players playing around him and him kind of bringing some synergy into the picture, if I'm not mistaken from what you just said.
Yeah, so I mean, I think he'll bring synergy, like you said, also bring in the best out of the other players, but also, he's a great search and destroy player, and that's something JCap is not. So if he goes onto this team, him, TJ Halley, Kenny, and Dashy Slasher, that is one of the deadliest search and destroy rosters that we would have in the CDL. So I think he adds a big factor in that, and I think he'll help this team out tremendously.
All right, well, Momo, are you sold on Chino? Obviously, you're not. Tell me why not.
I mean, I'm on the attacking side. I will say, Nameless brings up some very good points, and he gets me very excited to see Chino. Big fan, as always. However, and a big however, I think that, I think roster changes, roster mania is a must for OpTic right now. They are in a sorry state. They're currently sat at 10th. They've got 20 points. All 20 were collected at their home series. Since then, it's just been failure after failure. So I think the change is a good thing. But going back to basics here, they're replacing JCap with Chino. It's a like for like. It's an AR for an AR. They're adding, or not even an AR, they're adding a powerhouse AR in Chino to a roster which already has Dashy, already has Slasher. They already messed around with the roles previously, where we saw Dashy running MP5, Slasher trying to change roles as well. And it just got messy. It didn't work. They went back to how it originally was. It still sucked then. OGLA have not picked up a CDL point in the last however many weeks or months. Do I see them improving? Yes, but going back to the hot take, Chino will be enough to turn it around for OGLA. No, I just don't see it. I don't see this at all. I see that Chino will come in. He will bring good vibes. He will be a great asset on the map. I heard that he's running an MP5, and I don't know how good he is with an MP5. I'll be completely honest. I know he's a dominant AR, but OpTic already have that. I think it's going to be great to see OpTic kind of maybe having fun together again, but are they going to be winning, taking out teams like Minnesota Mutineers? I don't see that. And for the OpTic brand especially, turning it around for me, that's a minimum of being at the top of the, maybe top 4. I mean, and that's being kind. I just don't see it. We're halfway through the season right now. These guys have 20 CDL points. It's a no from me.
Yeah. This is a bit of a dumpster fire that they're dropping this guy in.
But bless Chino's heart, he's going to try his best. We love that guy, and he's a national treasure. We love him. But
Chino's dropping in the superstore with no loot and 3 teams. It's tough, man. He's coming in with a pistol. He's got to go off.
Well, Nameless, I want to give you a chance to really attack this point, man. Tell me something. What stylistically or mechanically can Chino bring outside of the search and destroy stuff you mentioned earlier to OpTic Gaming LA that could potentially just flip their entire season?
Well, I think he's a solid flex player. So if Slasher commits to running that submachine gun and lets Dashy run an AR, or vice versa, Chino can come in and be a flex. So I don't really see a huge issue in the AR situation. I think that he can run a sub and be absolutely fine. I think Chino has the ability to slay, so I think he takes some of the pressure off of the rest of his teammates where JCap wasn't. I also think that Chino makes players like TJ Halley better. I think TJ being on a team with those type of vibes, he'll be more motivated to get on and play and practice and go harder, which we know has been a problem in TJ Halley's past. I think he just benefits his team in a lot of different ways that, will go unspoken, honestly. You won't see it. Chino's a great guy, and he does bring those positive vibes, and it goes a long way in Call of Duty. There's a reason all the players always talk about it, and I'm excited to see them get going with him as well, if the rumor is true.
Okay, well, and Momo, last thing for you. There's a lot of gaping holes in the OpTic Gaming LA infrastructure. Chino would fill some holes, but what are some of the other problems that you think that Chino cannot fix with him being put in the lineup?
I think this job is just too big of an ask for one man. I think Chino is going to be brought in, and certain fans will have certain expectations, and I think he will deliver on certain aspects. I think his search and destroy gameplay, like Nameless said, it will bring something to the team. But to turn this around, when you're halfway through the season, you've had 2 victories, 20 CDL points. Teams are just so far ahead of them. And for these guys to even claw this back, it's so hard for them to do so. And I just think, to answer your question, the fact of what can he not do, there's too much for him to do. I think these guys are in too much of a mess right now to just kind of put Chino over the wound as a plaster, if you like, or a Band-Aid, and it all be fixed. I think they will improve. We will see them maybe crawl into the top 8, but is top 8 turning it around? No, I don't think it is. I think maybe they needed something drastic or something bigger, but the only team that's been ballsy enough to do that is the LA Guerrillas, and they stand at the bottom, so who knows right now. I think OpTic are in a sorry state, and again, when there's 5 players on every roster, who do you look at? Substitutes, yes. I mean, OpTic have Goonjar, but is that fixing the problem bringing Goon in? I don't see it. Which players are out there available?
I just can't see this OpTic Gaming team being bad for the season. I mean, you look at the players on this roster, they should be winning. I still to this, I'm mind blown by it. If tomorrow if there was just a random huge tournament tomorrow, right, and they were in it, I wouldn't even be surprised if they were just started to dominate because their roster's so damn good. If Chino comes in and even just the smallest thing changes for these guys, they can be insane. At the last tournament, Kenny was playing so much better. He was playing better than we've seen him the entire year. If TJ just turns it on, which we've seen him do, same with Slasher and Dashy, they could be incredible. I think Chino could be that spark for them, right? Maybe they just need that change, and I just believe that it'll change. I can't see these players underperforming any longer. They are too good, and they have too many championships, world championships at that, on their roster.
All right, with all that being said, Nameless, man, you valiantly defended OpTic Gaming LA and Chino, but as per usual here on Contesting the Point, we are not quite sold on OpTic Gaming LA, and even with this roster change, I do think that this is just too steep of a mountain for them to climb. I'm going to give this round to Momo, which brings us actually very interesting right now to a tie because Momo wins this round 5-6 and bring our total to 16 apiece. We are at a dead stop here because we're at a tie, which means we have to have a quick tiebreaker round, Nameless and Momo. Basically, I'm just going to give you guys a question and you guys, give me your best answer.
I already have my answer.
OpTic Gaming LA, obviously, we just talked about them. They're struggling quite a bit. If you were the general manager or somebody who could change OpTic Gaming LA, what changes would you make to turn the season around? Nameless, since you said you already got something in mind, I'll let you go first.
Oh, man. See, Malik, you're putting me on spot here because I would usually charge for this type of advice, And I almost wanted to keep it in the back pocket, but, I really want to beat Phil in this episode. So I'm just going to say it, and there's no other answer that's better than this. They go to Toronto, and they go, hey, Toronto, guess what? You have a player on your bench. Guess what we have? We have some cash. You know what? We want Looney. You bring Looney onto this team with these players. They will dominate. They'll be so much better. The last time we saw Looney, TJ Slasher playing on a team, oh my God, was it money. On that Rise roster, they were incredible. Looney sitting on a bench, one of the smartest players in Call of Duty history. He's won a championship in nearly every Call of Duty that he's competed in. If he goes to this team, he fixes it. Point blank, period. He goes here, he becomes the captain, he fixes all of this. He demands respect from his teammates. I think Looney on this OpTic Gaming team would be a force to be reckoned with. I think they would be a team that strikes fear in their opponents, and I think that it would be, a fresh air for Looney and for the OpTic Gaming players. Slasher would feel confident in having a player that he knows that he can trust in-game, and his in-game intelligence is comparable to his. That team would be on another level with him. That's how you fix it, and he's on the Ultra bench. Just go grab him.
Ooh, I like it. I would love to see Looney off the bench in the game playing. Just I feel like there's a lot of talent that's just sitting out.
I like it too. That's my problem right now. That's a great. This is why Nameless charges some cash for this.
Right, you're right.
It's most certainly not my expertise as what fixes what, and I know there's a lot of players out there. I think Looney is again being on a bench. I think. Just crediting Nameless, I think it's kind of a no-brainer at this point. However, if I'm going to change something or if I was in charge, I think the right step is what they're doing is taking Cap out. The stats aren't good enough right now. I think replacing them with Chino is kind of like a quick fix of maybe a small improvement. But I actually think another change will need to be made. I think they improve slightly, but to become a championship roster, which OpTic Gaming and these type of players, Dashy, Slasher, all of them want to be, I think more than a one-man change needs to be done. I personally am not, expertise of who they bring in. I think, yes, Looney is a great pick. I think Enable is a great pick as well. But I think as well, it's kind of controversial to say, and I can't see it happening, and I don't even know whether it will work. There is a lot of good kind of, whether you look at the AMSI, whether you look at someone to bring in, quote unquote, kind of like Mac Melts, that kind of level of experience, to bring that in to be partnered with such hunger and desire to veterancy, maybe you start to create something along the lines of like what the Dallas Empire have done, where you've got an even match of veterancy and young, incredible, crazy talent. That's where I would be looking.
Okay, all right. Well, with that being said, I do like Nameless's idea.
I do, man, as well, Malik.
I do.
I'm a big fan of Nameless's idea.
Yeah, but I do think having one player, I think that's just not the answer. I think they need a lot more done in order to change things over there at OpTic Gaming LA. With that being said, Momo, I'm going to go with you as the winner of this episode. I think that you have a little bit more of a foolproof plan for OpTic Gaming LA, and you know what that means. That means you get 60 seconds to pop off in our Astro Listen Up moment. What do you have to say to the people?
Wow, I just cannot believe it. I've come up against one of the greatest. On contesting the point is Nameless. I fell to the likes of Chance and Benson and Miles, and then I go up against Nameless. I'd almost written myself off at this point. I want to give a great You know, big honorary shout out to my mum. She'll be very proud of me for winning my first contest in the point. It's been a long time coming. Maybe I perform better online than online. Online, I kind of got torched as well by some of the other CDL talent. But no, going forward, I'm very excited for the Mutineers home series. You know, we have no Dallas, we have no Chicago. You know, is it going to be FaZe? Is it going to be Minnesota, or is it going to be Florida? Who knows at this point? Do I want something completely out of the blue? Yes, we love the upsets. To kind of quote-unquote pop off, Nameless, it was a good try. I liked your answer so much that I probably would have given you the victory on this one. But it's a GG, and I will take this, and I'll take my beautiful Astros. I want a gold pair. ASTRO Gaming, hit me up.
All right, everybody, that does it for this edition of Contesting the Point. Thanks once again to Nameless and Momo for coming here and doing battle. And guys, Call of Duty action back this weekend at 1 Pacific this Friday. We got the Atlanta FaZe kicking things off against the Paris Legion. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure you tune in. But until then, guys, stay safe, stay healthy.